Okay, Carly, we are now live. Please take it away.
Thanks, Ross. Hi, everybody. Sonoma County, welcome to this evening's update. Today is August 23rd, and we are here to give an update on the LNU complex fires in Sonoma County. Just a reminder, this feed is available on Facebook Live. It is also available through Zoom. If you are in the Zoom app, you can select Spanish to listen to the report out in Spanish. Today, we will also be trying to field some questions from our community. So in the question section on Facebook Live in the comments, please ask your questions and we'll try to get as many of those in at the end of the presentations as possible. And a final reminder to join us tomorrow at 9 a.m. We will do another briefing tomorrow at 9 a.m. as well as 4 p.m. So to start off today, I'm going to ask our Senator Mike Aguiar to kick us off with an update from his side. Senator?
Carly, thank you so much for allowing all of us to be here. I want to say thank you to the county, Sonoma County Sheriff's Office, the Board of Supervisors, all local firefighters, as well as CALFIRE for their tremendous work over these past many days. All are breaking their backs to be able to keep our communities safe. I also want to acknowledge the all hands on deck effort with the federal partners, both Congressman Thompson, who was just a real veteran on all of these challenging situations. Want to ask him to just say a few words here in just a bit, and want to say how grateful I am to him, his leadership, along with Congressman Huffman and Assemblywoman Aguiar Curry as well. Would like to provide a very brief update. I know that there's been some real frustration from folks about you're not seeing a lot of aircraft up in the air today. Just understand, if CALFIRE could fly aircraft, they would, but we've been hampered by low hanging smoke for the second day in a row on the air attack. Once that smoke clears, and I know we'll get more of an update from CALFIRE in just a bit, obviously aircraft will be up in the sky. Resources continue to move into the state of California. I want to assure you, no expense is being spared. Every stone is being unturned. We are reaching deep into the federal mutual aid system and seeing fruits of that labor coming in, engines and personnel coming in from Western states, and we are so grateful. And we need as many hands on deck as possible to be able to battle these historic wildland fires. Just 4 days ago, there were approximately 7,000 firefighters on the lines of these massive wildland fires here in the state of California. Fast forwarded to today, we are now at about 14,000 firefighters across the state, along with 200 aircraft working these large incidents that are impacting our communities. We are also so sorry to so many who are losing homes and ranches in this devastating blaze. We want to let you know that the State Office of Emergency Services is very focused and connected with the County of Sonoma on their own shelter services, making sure that individuals who are evacuated or may have lost their homes are as comfortable as possible during these challenging times. And we're also working simultaneously right now, the State Office of Emergency Services with the county, to be able to prepare at the appropriate time to move forward on individual homeowner cleanup, as well as neighborhood cleanup for those neighborhoods that have been impacted and or devastated by wildland fire. And I want to end it right here talking about insurance. The State Department of Insurance is also now working directly with the County of Sonoma on providing individuals with the tools they need to be able to access their insurance. If you have lost a home, if you've lost a home due to the wildland fires, we encourage you to report this loss immediately to your insurance carrier. Could not be more urgent about that. If you have lost a home, please report it immediately to your insurance carrier. The Department of Insurance will be working with you, along with our federal partners and in the county, to ensure that you are getting what you need to be able to recover. I'll turn it back over to you, Carly. And again, thank you so much for allowing me to be here.
Great, thank you, Senator. Great update. Next, we'd like to turn it over to Congressman Thompson. Congressman Thompson, you have an update for the residents of Sonoma County.
Well, thank you very much. And I too want to thank everyone for the great work that they're doing. Everybody's been fantastic, and everybody is doing yeoman's work. So thank you all very, very much. And my condolences to everyone who's lost property and has been inconvenienced by yet another fire. The federal government has, and I just want to say to what Senator Aguiar said in regard to the mutual aid. I know today I was out on the fire line. I saw units from Ventura County, San Francisco, Berkeley, Fresno, and federal firefighters as well. And that's just a small sampling of who all is out there. And that's amazing if you consider that, I don't know what the current number is, but on Friday, California had 527 fires. So we're impacted heavily, as are surrounding states. So thanks go out to all of our mutual aid partners. From the federal level, it's important, I think, to note that we were approved for our national disaster declaration, that the governor applied for that last week. I led a letter with Congressman Huffman and our other California colleagues. I think we had 31 bipartisan signatures, including the speaker and the minority leader, Kevin McCarthy. And that's important because it does a couple of things that are important to all of us. It provides for individual assistance of up to $35,000 to individuals to rebuild or repair their homes, to pay for temporary housing, for crisis counseling, for disaster unemployment services, and for disaster legal services. And if folks are interested, you can apply right now. You have to go to www.disasterassistance.gov, www.disasterassistance.gov. Or you can call a 1-800 number, 1-800-621-3362. And this declaration also provides public assistance. And that's money that goes to state, local, and tribal governments in order to repair public infrastructure. And this is incredibly important because every time we have a disaster of this nature, our public infrastructure takes a major hit, and it costs money to repair that. And that comes in at a 75-25% ratio. And I've already introduced legislation to try and up that to a 90-10% ratio, would give us a little bit more help. The Natural Disaster Declaration also allows the Small Business Administration to give loans. And those loans can go to businesses and nonprofits for up to $2 million. And that money is used to repair or replace damaged real estate, machinery, equipment, inventory, or other assets related to that nonprofit or to that business. And then individuals can get Small Business Administration loans up to $40,000. So if you're a business, an individual, or a nonprofit interested in that, you can apply at disasterloanassistance.sba.gov. disasterloanassistance.sba.gov. And then I also have available a fire guide that I put out after one of our earlier fires, and that's available. You can go to mikethompson.house.gov or go on my website and ask for that, and we can send it. And that just gives you kind of a blueprint and help guiding your way through all of the bureaucracy, all of the services that are available to people. And it proved very helpful in our past disasters. So I encourage you to access my website and get a copy of that. And with that, I'll just say thank you again to everyone, and I'll yield back my time.
Great, thank you, Congressman. At this time, I'd like to pass it over to Assemblywoman Aguiar Curry. Assemblywoman.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much for putting this together, and it's nice to see some of the familiar faces, all the supervisors. First of all, I want to say, in the past 5 years, we've seen nothing but wildfires throughout this entire district, Assembly District 4. It's been a tough couple of years, but we have done a lot of good things that makes this as difficult as it is, that we know how to respond. So I want to first thank the Sonoma County Office of Emergency Services. We're doing a wonderful job, obviously our first responders, but the mutual aid that we are getting from up and down the state of California right now and out of state to help us out and to try to get us back on our feet. And I think one thing we're forgetting about is some of our unsung heroes in our communities. And I know that there's a lot of people that are helping people out, that have volunteered, that have moving people out. Even, making sure there's a fire break around people's homes, getting animals to the shelters. So I want to thank all the volunteers, all the neighbors. And if there's not a better time, is to check in on our neighbors. This is not going away. I just left a big press conference up in Yolo County. And while we were there, the wind really picked up. And so as you can imagine, we're all quite nervous about the wind picking up and potential lightning strikes. So, we're all in this together. Please obey the rules. Please listen for when you're supposed to leave the area. It's really important. We'd rather have our firefighters actually fighting fire instead of trying to move people out. Listen to what the rules are. Make sure you have a to-go bag. And I want to thank Congressman Thompson and Congressman Huffman for helping us get the federal funding. And this is truly what we need. And you're not being left out alone between the state and the federal government. There's a lot of resources, and we'll be more than happy to make sure you have those. But I do know the Office of Emergency Services has done a great job, as well as all the supervisors on their website. So take advantage of those. Again, thank you so much for all that you're doing, everyone. And I hate to see you every year in the same situation, but we can do it. Right? Right, Shirley? Right, Linda? We can do it. Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much, Assemblywoman. Appreciate your positivity. It's always good to have that in these situations, so thank you. Next, we'd like to get an update from Chief Ben Nichols. Chief, give us an update on how it's looking out there.
So Carly, it's looking really good so far out there this afternoon. There was limited fire growth overnight. The fire behaved as expected. Those southwest winds are still on the fire area, which is pushing it towards the Dry Creek Valley West Side Road area. The fire is continuing to back down into the communities of Rianito and Guerneville. Our concern at this point is the thunderstorms that are forecasted to come in this evening. So we're currently under a red flag. That red flag warning has continued to grow across the entire northern part of the state, from Monterey County to the Oregon border and across to Tahoe and up from there. So unfortunately, we have another round of forecasted thunderstorms coming into the area. That red flag goes from 5 o'clock this morning through 5 o'clock tomorrow night. Our incident meteorologists here on the lightning complex are anticipating that the best opportunity or the most likely chance for significant lightning will come in between 6 and 11 o'clock tonight and possibly continue throughout the night. We have bolstered resources on the fire line to ensure that we have a rapid response for new fires outside of the main fire area. So it was communicated with incident resources here across the complex to have resources pre-identified to launch to new starts outside that main body fire area to bring the resources to bear, because the initial attack resources are all pretty much on the line at this point. 96% of CALFIRE's resources are committed to these going fires, and so we're relying on those incident resources that are here on the fire to aid the initial attack resources so that we don't develop more major fire events. I did see some out-of-state resources come into the fire today, so that was a relief. I believe Oregon and Washington were the two states' resources that I saw coming into incident base this morning. So With that, the other side of the thunderstorms is that even if it doesn't produce lightning, we have the risk of downdrafts coming from the system as it moves through. Those are anticipated to be approximately 40 miles per hour, which is going to be less than the cells that we had moved through with the initial storm. But the risk for that is that the air moving down below the cell itself pushes the fire in a 360-degree direction around the base of that wind and creates a extreme fire condition for us and a rapid growth of fire spread. So we're hoping to get through tonight without a storm producing. We're all crossing our fingers. But with that, know that resources are on the line and are fully briefed and ready to go, and knowing that they need to make sure that we don't have more additional fires in the area. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Now I'd like to turn it over to Susie Brady. Susie is our Incident Public Information Officer with CALFIRE. Susie, what do you have for the public today?
Thanks, Carly. So just like Chief was saying, we're not out of the woods yet. So we want to make sure that folks are reminding themselves to have those go bags ready and to pay attention to the conditions around them, as well as following us either on social media or signing up for Nixle or your SoCal alerts, just to make sure that you guys are aware of the situations. Just to give you guys some updates on the Wahlberg incident, currently this morning, we're at 51,072 acres and still 0% contained. We do have great news though on the Myers fire, 2,360 acres, but we're 70% contained. So crews are working their booties off out there to make sure to get us back home and the community back to where they should be. So there's a lot of hard work still going on, but we can't do it alone. So please, we ask the community to still help us, to listen to us, and to make sure that they're ready to go if we ask them to leave. We do have a 24-hour information line. If anybody has any questions, they could call us. That number is 707-967-4207. That's all I have, Carly.
Great, thank you. Some really great reminders. Now I'd like to go over to Sergeant Juan Valencia, Public Information with the Sonoma County Sheriffs. Sergeant Valencia, we recently had some new information with evacuation orders and warnings. Can you update us on those?
Yes, thanks, Carly. Yes, so as of this morning, the Dry Creek Valley area has been downgraded from an order to a warning. And then also parts of Windsor, which is in the map grid, it's 4A1, which contains the area of Riverfront Park, and 4C1, which is the Vine Hill area, kind of out in West County. We still want to let people know, even though it's been downgraded, you still need to have your stuff ready. And if the weather picks up or if we get a lightning strike and it starts a fire, we just still want people to be vigilant of what's going on. Evacuation order areas, we want people to stay out. We're having problems with people that are staying in the evacuated areas that reside there. They're out driving around and they're being contacted by deputies. So we just want people that to stay out of the area. We have also released the entire map for the county. So we recommend the community to go to SoCo Emergency. The EVAC map is updated and all your zones are there. Please look at the map, familiarize yourself with what zone you are. It will make things a lot easier, and that's part of the process of being aware of your surroundings and also being aware of if there's an emergency. We have approximately 130 deputies out patrolling the area. That includes 60 mutual aid. Big thank you to San Francisco PD, San Francisco Sheriff's Office, CHP, and Petaluma PD for stepping up and helping us out. We continue patrolling the evacuation zones, and our checkpoints are still in place. And so far, as of today, we have arrested one person out in Guerneville for looting. And also, if you could communicate, also visit our Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. The sheriff posted a video regarding the mapping, the new county mapping system, and it's a step-by-step tutorial of how to go navigate the map. Thank you, Carly. That's all I have.
Thank you, Sergeant. Let's see. So next, let's go over to Sonoma County Board of Supervisor, Linda Hopkins. Supervisor Hopkins.
Thank you so much. And I just want to echo the thanks that my colleagues, my other elected officials on this call have already shared with our first responders, and then get right into a few nitty-gritty items. Number one, I want to acknowledge that the evacuations are ongoing. Folks have been displaced from their homes for a number of days now. And I've heard from a number of residents who are worried that they're running out of options, right? They might be running out of money for the campground that they're staying at or the hotel that they're staying at. We do have resources available for you. Please go to our temporary evacuation point at the fairgrounds, and we have a suite of options available, including shelter capacity, as well as situations, for those folks who might need to have pets with them, families, people who are medically vulnerable. We will match you with the resource that you need. So please know that you are not alone. You are not without options. We do have options to help make sure that you've got a place to be until you're able to safely repopulate your home. Number two, I want to echo the words of Sergeant Valencia. Just because we're able to move back into these areas of Forestville and Dry Creek does not mean that we get to just sort of go into a feeling of complacency. So my phrase for today is situational awareness. We are in an extraordinarily dynamic situation. As you heard from Chief Nichols, the weather is going to be extremely unpredictable. It does have the potential for these sudden significant wind gusts that can push the fire in new directions. So please maintain situational awareness at all times. And quite frankly, that goes for everyone in Sonoma County, not even the folks who just happen to be within proximity of the Wall Bridge fire, because we could unfortunately see new fire ignitions from the lightning storm that's anticipated to roll through. So please maintain your situational awareness. Keep your best friend by your side, all of your communications devices charged and ready to go. It's very, very important that you listen to officials and that you respond promptly when you are issued either an evacuation advisory or a mandatory evacuation. Thanks everyone to us on the front lines of the fire and all of our second responders and the county family too, as well, manning the shelters.
Thank you, Supervisor. Next, I'd like to go over to Supervisor Shirley Zane. Supervisor Zane, do you have an update for us?
Yeah, just an update on health considerations. I just want to remind everybody that we are still in a pandemic. I think it's easy to get distracted over the fires and get concerned about them in terms of trauma and stress and anxiety as well. But those face masks, they can save your life, and they can also prevent you from inhaling that small particulate matter that is so thick in the air right now and can really make you sick. It's beyond just having an asthma attack or having complications with the COPD. It goes beyond that. It actually gets into your bloodstream. It can cause serious conditions such as a heart attack or even a stroke. So if you're older or you have children that have asthma, please stay inside. I can't emphasize that enough. In terms of our mental health, it's just as important that we take care of our mental health now as our physical health. The County of Sonoma is offering a mental health warm line that you can call 7 days a week from 10 in the morning until 7 at night. There are live therapists. It is free, it is confidential, and they will help you with ongoing resources too. That phone number is 565-2652, 565-2652. Some people have been asking me, what about my kids? They're really worried. Can they have PTSD? Kids will usually, younger children under the age of 10 will often reflect what's going on with their parents. So just be aware of that. Kids can get very anxious, and they'll show you in their behavior, but they're not going to necessarily tell you. So it's a really good time just to focus on sitting down, playing a game, reading a book, whatever you need to do to just help your children just to be in a calmer place, and yourself as well. Again, I want to echo the words of our assembly member. Take care of your neighbor, take care of your loved ones, and take care of yourself during this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Zane. At this time, that concludes the report outs from our elected officials and our CALFIRE partners. I'd like to open it up for questions now. So if you're in the Zoom meeting, please raise your hand. If you're on Facebook Live, please add a question to the comment. section. And I'll go ahead and start with one of the questions from the community on Facebook. And Chief Nichols, I think this will be for you. How close are we to containment for the Walbridge fire?
The containment is very difficult for us in both the southern end of the fire in the Guerneville-Rio Neto area and as well as the Dry Creek west side areas due to the heavy timber component and the abundance of residential structures spread throughout that area. The topography is in alignment with the current wind pattern, and so we're unable to utilize the bulldozers the way we would like to cut off that fire from advancing into that area. So it's continuing to burn down into those areas. We're constructing dozer line, and as we begin to receive hand crews at the fire, those hand crews are getting deployed as well, but they're still few and far between. So where we can make breaks, we're making those breaks, and then we're trying to connect the dots between those breaks with engine companies and aircraft to try to hold the fire above those structures and above the Dry Creek Valley and the community of Rio Neto and Guerneville. Guerneville at this point is not a major concern to me as much as Rio Neto, as the fire is closer to Rio Neto. But as I said before, the fire is a backing fire and has not made any significant runs in that area for quite some time.
Thank you, Chief. Next up, we have a question in the Zoom from Tyler Sylvie. Tyler, go ahead and ask your question.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. I wanted to ask in terms of today and tonight, what you're most worried about, Chief Nichols.
Tonight specifically is our largest concern due to the red flag warnings and that dry lightning that's forecasted to come into the area. With that can come new starts, and we are struggling to maintain that initial attack strength, as well as the downdrafts coming out of those thunder cells moving through the fire area, pushing the fire in directions that we haven't been chasing it. So there's been a lot of great work done by individuals on the west side of the fire, and to date we haven't seen any explosive fire growth that way, but with the thunder cells moving through, we could have a significant growth in any portion of the fire. So that is our largest concern.
Can I ask one follow-up?
Please go ahead.
Just in terms of the firefighting force that Senator Aguiar and then you've talked about as well, Chief Nichols, how tired are the firefighters? What sort of shifts are they working? Wanted to know if they're getting a lot of sleep and how they're eating. If you could just speak to that, I'd appreciate it.
I can tell you right now, they're not getting a lot of sleep. But we have got into a much more manageable routine. Those initial attack resources from our partner agencies from across the county and the local areas, and our local CALFIRE resources held the line for approximately 96 hours before rest cycles were started to get into order. So at this point, all resources are working a 24-hour shift on and a 24-hour shift off to maintain that health and well-being of the firefighters and keeping them sharp when they engage the fire front.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tyler. Next, we have a question from the community. Sergeant Valencia, I'm going to kick this one to you. Can you explain why the downgrade on some of the evacuation orders?
That's going to probably have to be more with CALFIRE.
Okay.
Be more of a weather and fire behavior. But we do work closely in collaboration with CALFIRE.
Chief Nichols, you want to take that one?
Sure. So those evacuation orders were put out with the idea of an abundance of caution to ensure that we had communities out of the way in case fire conditions drastically increased. We didn't see those fire conditions increase as expected, which is what allowed us to go back to an evacuation warning. But as Supervisor Hopkins put out there earlier, just because you're back home does not mean that you're home for good. So please stay vigilant. Please keep the car packed and ready to go, because that could change to an order at any time.
Great, thank you. Next up, we have Carrie Benfield from the Press Democrat. Carrie, want to ask your question?
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
I'm not exactly sure who this is to, but I was looking for raw numbers again on the evacuation change. Do we know how many people are now under evacuation warning and how many are under evacuation orders with this shift this afternoon?
Chief, I don't know if you know those numbers. Otherwise, I can get them over to Carrie following the briefing.
Yeah, I believe we don't have those numbers.
Okay. Carrie,
Okay.
I'll work with you on those.
Okay, thank you. And can I just have a follow-up then, and this is also probably for Chief Nichols, is there a personnel breakdown, firefighting crews between Walbridge and Myers at this point? Like how many on each?
Yeah, so the Walbridge is still the priority incident for the entire Sonoma Lake Napa unit lightning complex. So 314,000 acres had burned as of this morning, and the Walbridge is 51,000 acres of that total. So the size of the fire isn't the driving factor as much as the amount of community and property that is threatened from our fire. So we have maintained the most significant resource draw for the resources coming into the fire area, which has allowed us to get the bulldozers and engine companies that we needed to continue constructing that line and holding the line as it comes down into the Alexander Valley and the lower Russian River there. As far as resources between the two fires, the Myers fire should, barring a significant event tonight, go to 100% contained tomorrow. That fire is looking really good. I was able to fly it at 2 o'clock this afternoon, and while there's interior smokes and things still burning, they're well inside the burn, and so our crews will maintain a presence out there for some time to come. But today, we have one task force of engines and a supervisor that are out there staffing that fire today, and we anticipate approximately that number of resources for the duration until that fire is put to bed, so that those resources can be shifted to the Walbridge and the other larger fires that still have room to grow.
Is there a manpower number though, like as far as dozers and actual firefighters on each?
I don't have that number right in front of me, but we can get that to you. As I said, the Myers fire has such a small staffing that I can tell you that has one task force of fire engines and one supervisor with a couple of water tenders. So the Walbridge has the bulk of the resources, almost all the resources here in Sonoma County.
Okay, thanks so much.
Thank you, Carrie. Next up, we have Mary Callahan. Mary, go ahead and ask your question.
This is also for Chief Nichols. Sorry to prevail upon you. I think most of us think about firefighting as, you know, what we see in a structure fire in an urban setting. I'm wondering if you could help us understand what activity is actually taking place on the line during this time. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah.
And also, any of us who have been outside at all today, the air is just horrible. How are people managing this kind of smoke?
So the good news is that because your air is smoky, that means that the smoke column is being pressed down on top of the fire, and so that's basically keeping a lid on it, similar to closing the dampener in your fireplace. So that's actually helping that fire maintain a lower intensity throughout the day today. As far as the smoke conditions have indeed grounded aircraft across the entire area. The Ukiah Air Attack Base up in Ukiah had fixed-wing air tankers staged there to try to keep them out of the smoke here in Sonoma County, knowing that the Sonoma County Air Attack Base was going to be impacted, but they were still smoked in. So that is an issue across the fire area. The fires on the in the east zone were requesting air tanker support earlier today, and they could not get aircraft either, even from Sacramento, due to the smoke conditions. We have been able to fly helicopters. The visibility has been good enough for helicopters to fly. So we've had two Black Hawk helicopters working the east side of the wall bridge for the better part of the afternoon. As far as the resources on the line, how we're fighting fire, and to contain a wildland fire, we have to deprive it of fuel and or heat. And so at this point, because of the size of the fire, hose lays or applying water to the bulk of that fire is not a realistic option. So it requires us to cut line, and that's either with bulldozers or hand crews, and basically making roads or trails around the fire to take the fuel away so that the fire ceases to advance forward. So those crews are out there constructing those lines. Once those lines are in, there may be firing operations because we have to take our control lines to a point of convenience to allow the fire to not get past us. So that predominantly is ridge tops. So if those ridge tops get cut in by bulldozers prior to the fire advancing, then we will ignite a backfire back to the main body of fire in order to deprive the fire of the fuel as it advances our control line. Once those firing operations and or the fire has hit those control lines, then we put in engine companies and hand crews with back pumps, bags of water on their back with a nozzle on the front of it to go in and find the hot spots and make sure that those are all extinguished well inside the interior of the burn so that no flaming material can cast embers across that line and ignite a new fire. So this is a long event. There will be crews out there, I would imagine at this point, for weeks beyond the point today.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chief. We're getting a few questions on Facebook about evacuations, and you know, particularly from folks who live in more urban areas are concerned if they should, you know, expect to see evacuations coming down for Santa Rosa or Windsor anytime. So maybe can you just talk a little bit about how evacuation orders or warnings are determined, and at what point you would issue either?
Sure. So evacuation warnings and orders are issued based on fire behavior and the rate of spread of that fire and the reflex time it's going to take our partners with Sonoma County Sheriff's Office and their mutual aid agencies to get citizens out of harm's way. There was a large discussion the other day about whether or not to put Healdsburg into an evacuation order, the city limits of Healdsburg, but that was a reflex time of approximately 6 hours to make that happen. Please know that we are doing everything in our power to keep people in their homes, especially during these trying times of the pandemic that we're in. And so the benefit that Healdsburg and Windsor as well as Santa Rosa have is the vineyards in the Russian River Plain between the mountains on the west side of the Dry Creek Valley and those urban areas. So while we've experienced spotting during these fires, they have not been nearly as significant as the spotting distances that we saw during our offshore wind event fires last year and the year before. So that gave us peace of mind that while we may have some impact to the valley floor itself, it wasn't going to continue all the way into those communities. That being said, with the lightning system coming in this evening, that may give us pockets where we may have to push a larger radius around those areas. So that's how we address that.
Great, thank you for that. Up next, we have Tyler Sylvie with a question. Tyler, go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to ask about some specifics on structure loss for the Walbridge fire, and what area was the hardest hit in terms of structures?
We have damage inspection teams out there presently recording the information on the structures that have been damaged and destroyed. That is an ongoing process, and as soon as we have that vetted out, then we will work with the county to release that information. Unfortunately, I don't have an exact structure count for you at this point.
Do you have any idea when you might have that information?
I do not, as the fire is still actively burning in that area, so there are the damage inspection teams are recording that data for the structures that have been destroyed and or damaged, but there may be additional.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tyler. Up next, we have another question from Mary Callahan. Mary, go ahead.
Carly, this is probably for you or for Jeff.
Oh, you're cutting out. Mary, are you there?
I'm here. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Evacuation map. Rosa. How does that work, or is this?
Mary, we're having a hard time hearing you.
I'll ask later. Sorry, I'm sorry.
Okay, or type it into the chat. All right. Chief Nichols, one more for you. We're getting some comments on Facebook from folks who have heard about flare-ups down on Old Cazadero Road. If you're, are you getting any reports of activity in that area?
As I flew around the southern portion of the fire this afternoon, there was some isolated areas of vegetation burning within the burn. As far as any exterior spread or perimeter spread, I have not heard any radio traffic indicating that we're having issues out there.
Great, thanks. Just a reminder, if you're in the Zoom, if you have any questions, to please raise your hand. If you're on Facebook Live, ask any questions in the comments section. We'll ask a few more here. We have one about in regards to the weather for tonight, and it seems as though storm reports are coming in that it's dissipating over the ocean. I don't know if you look as surprised as me. So Chief Nichols, any updates that you've had in the last 40 minutes about the storm?
No, so I was on the road coming back from that helicopter flight. I was talking about one of my partners on that flight had put out there that you know, when you do a whole bunch of preparing for a big storm or a big snowfall, there's times where it doesn't happen because you're prepared. So we're hoping that we're over preparing and it becomes a whole bunch of nothing tomorrow, but we are prepared for an event if it does occur.
Great. All right, we'll take one last question. It's Tyler Sylvie on the Zoom. Tyler, go ahead and ask your question.
I feel like a favorite. Thank you very much. One last thing, just for context, I wanted to see if you had a count or an estimate of the number of structures that are threatened in the Walbridge area, that basically the ones you're trying to protect there.
Unfortunately, Tyler, I don't have that number off the top of my head, but I could get that for you.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate all you do.
All right, thanks everybody. This will conclude our update for August 23rd. We'll be back tomorrow at 9 a.m. with another update for you. So we'll see you then. Thanks again, everybody.